dar información y contestar preguntas.
Mi nombre es Eleno Licea, soy el representante del distrito número 1 de Tyler ISD. Yo creo que estamos en el distrito ahorita. Nick Vecina, soy abogado con Vecina Law Firm, mi propio despacho. Me encargo de casos civiles y específicamente hoy por la tarde les voy a hablar del código familiar y cómo proteger a sus hijos.
Buenas noches, me llamo José Sánchez, soy abogado, nacido de Long Beach y todo East Texas. Creo que soy el más viejito aquí de los abogados. Y yo trabajo en casos más de 25 años, casos de migración, de accidentes penales, civiles, derechos y de penal. Y gracias que también de ustedes, creo que pueden aprender muchas cosas, no nada más ustedes, con nosotros también, lo que están escuchando en este tiempo que está pasando aquí en el Tyler en nuestra área.
Mi nombre es Belinda Arroyo, soy una abogada de inmigración, he estado practicando como 18 años en el área de inmigración. Soy aquí de East Texas, nacida en East Texas, criada aquí en East Texas. Queremos hacer esto hoy para darle la oportunidad a juntar nuestra comunidad y ver qué podemos hacer. My name is Belinda Arroyo. I'm an immigration attorney here in East Texas. I was born and raised here in East Texas. I've been practicing immigration law for the last 18 years, and we wanted to bring together as many community leaders, and we consider you all community leaders as well, so just because we're up here doesn't mean that this is about us. This is about y'all too. This is more about bringing us all together to figure out how we can become united and really try to make a change and try to help the Hispanic community and also help the immigrant community because we are one. So we are not separate as Hispanic community from the immigrant community. We are one, and we are one in East Texas as well. I've grown up here. A lot of y'all have been here most of your lives. We've never seen anything like this. We've never had to confront anything like this. And so I think it's time for us to come together, and we invite everybody in East Texas to come together so that we can figure out how to deal with this. So I'm going to turn it over to Dalila. A lot of y'all already know Dalila. She's been working in East Texas on different things for a long time, but she's going to go over the 287G because we want people to be informed about what it is that this 287G is about. And so she's going to kind of walk y'all through that. And we'll try to do it in English and Spanish because we know we have English and Spanish speakers. So aquí Dalila va a estar hablando con ustedes de qué son los acuerdos de 287G para que podamos empezar con qué son y todo eso para que podamos entender y vamos a seguir con cada persona porque yo creo que cada persona aquí tiene algo para hablar con ustedes.
So I'll say it in English. My name is Delilah. I work for the nonprofit organization Texas Jail Project. We are advocates for folks who are incarcerated, but when there are agreements like 287Gs that agree or are in our county jails, we also are able to work in that lower capacity. I am a daughter of immigrant parents. Once I pass the mic on, they can also speak in English, but I will go ahead and kick it off with how did we get here? I think it's important to understand how did we actually get this task force model, because many individuals or community members do not understand how we got to this task force model. So the sheriff always, for the most part, had a contract with ICE. We had a 287G agreement, and that agreement was if you entered the county jail. Okay, so that's very important to know that if someone was arrested, that there were certain jailers inside of his jail that could question someone's immigration status.
And that's the first part here, jail enforcement model.
Yes.
You see the paper that we handed out, that's the jail enforcement model. And if you don't have that, we can pass that out for you.
Yes. So that's the type of agreement for the most part that the sheriff has always had. An agreement is the one he for the most part has had. And so now we move forward, and there was a Senate Bill 8 that passed this past session. So our organization, we also watched the latest session because we work on bills that could possibly harm our community members, especially for our immigrant community members or for individuals who have a mental illness or the substance piece. Our organization works on that piece as well. We did notice Senate bill was being passed or made it through. We weren't unfortunately able to kill that bill is what we say. And this is how we ended up in the mess, or I say entanglement, that we're in now. What does sine bail actually mean? What it means that our county sheriffs are required or mandated to sign a contract with ICE. It's not just any sheriff. It has to have a population of 100,000, and they also have to have a county jail. Those are the only folks, I would say, that have to sign or are mandated to sign a contract with ICE. But there are three different types of models that we have. We have the jail force model, which I've spoken on, that the sheriff, for the most part, that is the type of agreement that he has or had in the past. There's also award service models. Those didn't really exist until up until here recently. But the task force model, that is the most egregious model that you see. So when I say the most egregious, what I mean by that is that now we have given local law authority the power and the authority to question one's immigration status out in our community. That is what it says in this model. That is the task force model. That is what our sheriff signed on February the 18th, and then Homeland Security signed it the next following day. So, it's very important to understand that. That's why I want to say that. This contract was also brought to the Commissioner's Court in March of this year. And I want to highlight that one more time because we did put a call out to community members to come please and give public comment on this, that we were not going to be okay with this type of task force model. Unfortunately, we did not have a great turnout of community members. It was just a few of us, and it did get passed. And we didn't, with this model, we also learned that individuals or deputies from the sheriff's office that were going to have this capability to do or question the immigration status, we also learned that they first had to complete their training. Okay? So our organization, once again, we watch that jail population very closely because that is something that taxpayers pay for. So we just want to make sure that our money isn't being misused, especially for individuals with a mental illness or a substance piece. But sometime towards the end of September is when I noticed the first individual being arrested, a young lady, and I'm going to go ahead and say her name, Nancy, so I do apologize if I do start to cry. She was arrested on September the 29th, and I said, no driver's license and ICE hold. And I was like, what? I've never seen this. So I did my research and I looked more into it. Surely, lo and behold, she was arrested for the no driver's license. We learned also why the ICE hold. And then I remembered we had this, and I was like, oh, so that means some of these deputies have already completed their training. When we were able to make contact with Nancy in the jail, she was arrested on Sunday early in the morning. We finally were able to make contact with her on Wednesday. Of course, she didn't know who I was, the organization. She was like, who are you? Why do you want to help me? But she finally responded to us. By Wednesday afternoon, she said, yes, I was only arrested for not having a driver's license. I was stopped for having my high beams on or highlights on, but I was actually booked into the county jail for not actually having a driver's license. And then the officer told me he was also an immigration officer. So I reached out to an attorney that we closely worked with, Mr. Brent Harrison, and he got back with me pretty quickly. He's like, Delilah, we normally do not arrest individuals for not having a driver's license. So I will reiterate that. We normally do not arrest individuals for not having a driver's license because then that would also increase our jail population. So by Thursday morning, I made contact with Mr. Harrison. He's like, okay, we'll take the case on, and we'll help you out the best way we can. By Thursday morning, I spoke with his assistant, 8:30 in the morning. She shared with me, she's like, Delilah, it's too late for her. She had already been picked up by ICE by Thursday morning. An hour later, I get a call, and she's already at the ICE detention center facility. And I tell her, Nancy, you know what? You can fight your case if you want to. We'll help you out. We really will. And I said, but that's easy for me to say because I'm not the one sitting in that cage, right? And she's like, I can't do this, Dalila. So she signed her self-deportation that same day. And by Sunday, she called me and she's like, I'm already at home. So in the blink of an eye, Nancy was already at home. And that really broke my heart because it's like, how did this happen? And from there, from Nancy on, we've seen have continued to see these arrests, no driver's license, the ICE holds. You move forward. I get public comment maybe about 3 weeks ago, and I will be honest, not that the commissioner's court or any commissioner or the county judge reached out to me. Despite me doing this work for a few years now, they didn't contact me to tell me, hey, by the way, we're about to put 287G back on the agenda item, Delilah. They did not. I just happened to see it one day that Friday when I was going to court, and I was like, we gotta come and get public comment. We put it out there. Unfortunately, we once again did not have a community members respond to that call we made because we knew that you could say the damage was already being done. And here is where we're at now. This is what you will continue to see because the sheriff is, once again, he doesn't have a choice. He was mandated by our governor because of SB 8. He has to sign a contract with ICE. Now, this contract will renew itself. And
let's clarify.
Yeah.
He does have a choice.
Yes.
He has a choice which model he decides to have. So I only say that because I want to be clear because it seems like there's been some misinformation in the community about, oh, well, we've been doing this, and what's the big deal? No, we have not been doing this. What we've always done is the jail model, right? And even then, under the prior administrations, whether they would put an ICE hold or not depended on the level of the crime. So even if you got arrested for traffic violations, generally ICE in the previous administrations was not going to put an ICE hold on you. You were not going to be a priority. So I do think that even though he does have to do it, he does not have to sign a task force. And so I think, and just like Dalila was saying, it's a yearly contract. So even though we're stuck in it now, that doesn't mean we have to stay stuck in it. And I think that's where you as community members come in.
Yes, most definitely, that there is one way you can skin this cat, because we also have to keep in context, and I will share that later on, of how can we also slow this down while we're in this task force model. There is a way to slow this down. So I know I have just said a lot. I'm going to try to repeat what I said in Spanish. Ok, ¿cómo llegamos a este punto? Llegamos a este punto porque el alguacil ya tenía un arreglo con ICE adentro de la cárcel, pero adentro de la cárcel. Pero, ¿qué es lo que cambió? Pasaron una ley, nuestro gobernador pasó una ley CNB 8, y eso significa que todos los alguaciles que tienen una población más de 100,000 y una cárcel, tienen que, por ley, tienen que firmar este arreglo. Hay 3 tipos de arreglos o models, que se llama el jail enforcement, que siempre ha existido adentro de la cárcel, el warrant service model y el task force model. Pero el que es más horrible o causa mucho más daño a nuestra comunidad va a ser el task force model. Lo que eso significa que ciertos, y lo voy a decir otra vez, ciertos oficiales, no todos los oficiales, porque lo que miramos es que todos están poniendo videos del sheriff, pero no todos tienen ese poder o la autoridad de preguntarle a uno sobre su estatus inmigratorio. Y lo más espantoso en esto, yo diría, sería esta parte que dice: the power and the authority to interrogate any alien believed to be an alien. All this officer has to do that has completed this training is to believe that I'm an alien. That is, right, essentially, yes, right? That's all. It gives them so much power and authority. Your local deputies, and it's certain deputies, nuevamente les da tanto poder, porque solamente tienen ciertos oficiales que han acabado su entrenamiento, tienen la autoridad y el poder preguntarles si ellos piensan que yo no tengo estatus inmigratorio. El contrato se va a renovar en marzo el año que viene, pero hay lo que puede ser el alguacil. En febrero, nuestro deseo es que cambie, que regresemos al jail model, right? Yo puedo trabajar en ese mundo, a mí lo he hecho por muchos años, es lo que le digo a personas, pero este task force model jamás. Y hay otras maneras también que podemos hablar después, esto, cómo podemos que baje la numeración de personas que están arrestados, pero voy a hablar de eso más después. Voy a pasar esto a Gilberto.
Entonces, por ejemplo, le voy a leer lo que está aquí, a traducírselo en español. Dice que el oficial tiene el poder y autoridad de interrogar a cualquier extranjero o persona que se cree que es un extranjero y que si tiene el derecho de estar o permanecer en los Estados Unidos, y de procesar violaciones de inmigración a los individuos que han sido arrestados por delitos estatales o federales. Entonces esta persona, antes había una escasez de oficiales, ahora lo que están haciendo es entrenando y expandiendo esa autoridad a más personas. Cuando hay menos personas, vamos a decir, si hay en un bosque 3 cazadores y 15 venados, no hay tanto peligro porque no hay tantos cazadores. Pero imagínense ahora, si hay 100 cazadores y 15 venados, ahora realmente están más expuestos. Y eso es lo que está pasando, que la autoridad se ha extendido por obligación de que el gobernador se lo ha dado. 32 oficiales, dice la ley, que han completado su entrenamiento. Ellos están entrenados hasta cierta manera de ver ciertas cosas. Por ejemplo, tuvo un cliente que ellos tenían su documentación, a veces les regresan la I-797, que es la aprobación, y le enseñaban y la persona decía, oh, mira, pues se ve oficial, pienso que te puedo dejar ir. Ahora se van más allá, ellos llaman y hacen interrogación para ver si la persona tiene habilidad. Por eso, ahora, aunque la persona tenga su aprobación en la mano, no es nada que nos pueda garantizar que nos pueda amparar. Por eso es mucho mejor tener anotados los teléfonos míos, de Belinda, de José, Nick, para que puedan recibir ayuda. Belinda se sacrifica mucho ahí directamente a la boca del lobo para ayudar a las personas. Pero hay que, ahorita que sabemos que está pasando esto, lo único que podemos hacer es apoderarnos por tener conocimiento y entendimiento que debemos hacer. Porque uno cuando llega a ese punto está en pánico, quiere llamar, quiere pagar, quiere hacer lo que quiere. Pero hay que pasar, y no tenemos mucho tiempo, porque la vida nos dijo que esa pobre muchacha estaba ya en México. Y he tenido personas, a mí me llamaron un domingo, tenía cita con la familia el lunes, y me llamaron al mediodía y me dijeron, oye, la consulta que tenemos a la 1, no se preocupe, ya está en México. Entonces eso fue rapidísimo. Y obviamente la gente que están agarrando no son gente que son gente criminal, están agarrando a gente inocente, mamás, papás, abuelos, tíos y tías, y eso es lo que más nos duele. Parte de lo que ha causado esto es que no hemos tenido ninguna leyes de inmigración, no han pasado ninguna leyes desde el año 97. Yo he estado en inmigración desde el 2001 y desde todos esos años hemos esperado y anhelado algún cambio y no hemos visto nada progresivo. Entonces lo que podemos también es organizarnos para ver cómo podemos llamar la atención a las personas que están efectuando las leyes para ayudarles a entender que esto es necesario. Porque yo fui a Arizona en el 2010. En el 2010, cuando ellos hicieron muchas leyes muy difíciles, la gente se fue, dejaron sus casas, los bancos fueron afectados, las escuelas fueron afectadas, gente regresaron sus carros. No hay manera de poder extraer a estas personas sin que el resto de la comunidad sea afectada. Y ellos tienen que entender eso. Por ejemplo, si se llevan al cocinero, entonces la mesera, que puede ser ciudadana, ¿qué comida va a servir allá? el propietario del restaurante no va a tener nadie que cumpla con las asignaciones. Entonces no hay manera de simplemente decir, oh, vamos a quitar a un inmigrante y reemplazarlo con alguien más. No funciona así. Y ellos deben saber eso y entender eso. Para convencerlos que mucho de esto, y David lo puede verificar, es por causa de dinero. Es ese deseo de cumplir y obtener la recompensación y no estar completamente enterados que están afectando a familias. Por eso es muy, muy importante que ahorita nos preparemos. Tenemos planes familiares allá. Tenemos personas que se han dispuesto para estar listos para recibir llamadas y para proveer ayuda. Y lo que ustedes pueden hacer es compartir esa información con los demás para que ellos se preparen. Yo siempre le digo, es como un extinguidor de incendio. Lo tienen colocado en la pared, a lo mejor nunca lo necesiten, pero está allí. Así que la preparación es esencial. Ahorita es como si está viendo un huracán contra nosotros. Nunca lo he visto yo así. Cuando las elecciones ocurrieron en noviembre del año pasado, yo pensé, pasamos esto hace 4 años. No tengo tanto temor. Nunca pensé que esto iba a pasar. Así que por eso estamos aún más preparados para ayudarles. So what happens here is what Dalila was explaining is that the officers have the authority. Back then, they didn't, under the jail model, they only had a few people that were prepared when a person went into the jail. And that's when they came in contact with a person. Now, Dalila is saying there's 32 officers that have completed their training that have more expanded knowledge as to how to look at immigration issues. And so we don't have a lot of time when someone is caught in the detention because their process is very fast. A couple of weeks ago, I got a call on a Sunday that a family member had been detained on Saturday evening. We had a scheduled consultation at 1 o'clock on Monday, and the person called and said, you know what, I'm canceling my consultation because my family member is already in Mexico. And so it is going really, really fast. It's about numbers. It's about hitting these goals that they have. And they're not stopping and considering the effects they're having on people, because these people that they're detaining are not criminals. Most of them are just hardworking mothers, fathers, aunts, and uncles that are part of the community. Again, I was in Arizona in 2010 when they had a lot of harsh immigration laws passed. People there just moved out. They just gave their houses back to the bank, cars back to the bank, and they just moved out. And so there's no way that we can take these people out of our community and not feel the effect. The schools will feel an effect. There's no way that you can take a cook from the back of the kitchen and deport him and not affect the waitress who depends on her serving food that there's nothing there to serve, or the owner of the restaurant that has something to provide. So because we have not had comprehensive immigration reform, I think the way to address some of this issue is to inform the people that are capable of changing the laws, that we say we need a pathway for these people to legalize. And you know what? It's not an easy pathway. Linda and I know, Jose and I know, it's, you're vetted, you're fingerprinted, you have a full medical exam, you have to show income taxes, you have to show that you're capable of supporting yourself. So in order for these people to do it right, you have to jump through a lot of hoops. You have to pay a lot of money.
Let me interrupt you real quick just to ask this question about that process of doing things the right way. What if you're a European? Is the process still as long as it is for someone?
It is not. So there's a visa bulletin, and the visa bulletin dictates which countries have a faster pathway. Mexico right now, if a U.S. citizen petitions his brother or sister, it takes 23 years for that to mature. So imagine how impatient we get standing in the drive-thru at a restaurant and we're not getting our food fast enough. Imagine having to wait 23 years. So the DACA recipients, the kids that were here, that have already proven themselves loyal taxpayers, they need a pathway. The DREAM Act needs to pass. So we're asking for an opportunity. Give us a chance. And if we're not given a chance, then this option of enforcement only is not going to work. Because sooner or later, it's going to impact our community negatively. And so that's why I think we probably need to make our presentation so that, like Dalila says, go back to the jailhouse model and not step up the enforcement. Give these people the opportunity to make their applications and let them move forward. The laws are there. The Immigration and Nationality Act states what people must do. And every day we try to help people. But if we can't help anybody with this coming down on us so severely. I met with one person on Tuesday. That same afternoon, after they left my office, they were picked up. She wasn't driving. She was the passenger in the car. So they stopped the husband, and then they go to the passenger side, they question the wife, and they take the wife. She was not the driver. Why is that? How is that fair? And so it's very disheartening how this is happening. And so we really need to reach out to those that can make these laws. I know they're kind of, right now, not working very well. They were on vacation for like 40 days. But we have to insist on this, that they do something. There's a representative in Florida who proposed the Dignity Act. The DREAM Act has not passed. There's the 245I is still on the table. There's a lot of things that we could do. So I think collectively, if we want to provide support to our community, we should reach out to those people and say, you know what, this is not the way to do it. Let's give everybody at least a chance, at least a fighting chance. This is very unfair. It's very unfair. And all we want to do is have a fair chance. And so we see that everywhere. Even when people go fishing, if it's a fish that's so small, they said, no, you got to throw it back. There's standards. Well, why can't we have standards for people? And so that's what we need to do.
I want to pass it on to Jose first because I want Jose to speak on, this is a wildfire that is actually spreading and it's getting way out of control. And I think it's important to touch on that. That's why we are encouraging individuals to get one of these maps, because this is our travel advisory map, because like I said, it's spreading really fast. I just got word today that Bullard Police Department has now signed a task force model. We actually, on Tuesday, one of our constable, which I've never seen before, Constable Josh Joplin, he's on the agenda item to speak, and he's going to be signing a task force, or he's already signed it. But there is a way, because he's not mandated. He's not mandated to sign a contract with ICE or the task force. So I'm going to pass it on to Jose.
If you want to take a few extras, si se quieren llevar unos cuantos más para dar o para poner en sus negocios, llévense esos. If you want to take a few of the extra of the pamphlets, if you want to put them in your businesses, hang them up at your churches so that people are aware, please feel free to do that. We had these donated to Dalila's organization, so this is for y'all. And if you want to order some more and you want to do that for the community too, just get with Dalila too, and those can be something you can put in your businesses and that you can show. And then we're passing it over to José Sánchez.
Sí, gracias. Buenas noches. No sé si se acuerdan ustedes en 2006, la última vez que pasó un poquito de lo que está pasando ahorita en Tyler. En ese caso, estaba la ley federal que querían pasar diciendo que si alguien está aquí sin documentos, quieren hacerle un cargo felonial, un cargo penal. Porque la ley federal de migración es civil, no es penal. Pero lo quisieron hacer penal. Y en ese tiempo hicieron marchas en todos Estados Unidos. En ese abril 2006 hicimos aquí en Tyler más de 4,000 personas en el downtown. Cuando era más joven no tenía canas. en ese tiempo. Cuando estabas en college, ¿verdad? Sí, estaba también. Pero esa es la primera vez que nos juntamos todos los inmigrantes y todo lo que hemos visto, las migraciones, todo lo que he visto en estas semanas está bien y es muy bien que nos juntamos y todo eso. Pero también mucho trabajo que tiene que hacer atrás, sin manifestaciones, sin protestas, que se puede hacer ayudar en esto lo que estamos pasando. Primero es estar educado. ¿Qué es lo que está pasando? ¿Qué es lo que es? Todo eso es lo que digo, lo que estamos hablando de los contratos que tienen los sheriffs. Yo conozco muchos de los sheriffs en East Texas porque hago casos penales. Ha hecho bastante demandas contra ellos cuando están creando las leyes de los inmigrantes que están en la cárcel. Y es algo político. Todo eso de migración es político. Al final es político y por dinero. Porque si ves los puntos, y siempre digo a los republicanos amigos, si ves todos Estados Unidos, un porcentaje de 5 o 6% de todo el país son gente que no tiene documentos. ¿Cómo es que 5 o 6% están haciendo estos problemas? Claro que no. Y les digo a mis amigos, hey, si quitamos todos los inmigrantes, ¿no van a tener problemas en Estados Unidos? ¿No van a tener problemas? ¿No van a tener violencia? Pues claro que no. Pero tienen que poner a culpar a alguien. Y aquí no están poniendo a la gente que no tiene mucho apoyo. Es lo que están haciendo. Eso es todo político. Pero es otra, no podemos hablar después. Pero lo práctico es esto. ¿Qué están haciendo? Todo lo que hace el Sheriff Smith o todos los sheriffs que estamos viendo en la mapa es su decisión de ellos. Como dijeron, Larry puede decir, no, yo no lo voy a hacer. Si me quiere. No, él puede decir, yo no quiero, yo no voy a ser sheriff. Pero renunciar, él tiene derecho. No, es una decisión de él. No puede decir que no tiene su opinión, su decisión. Pues es otra cosa, pero son cristianos. Pero, si vemos la mapa, claro, cada contrato que tienen es un poquito diferente, pero lo práctico que yo veo, todos los contratos lo están haciendo. No importa que tengan el contrato escrito, no importa que todo eso lo hacen, ¿por qué? Porque es político. Porque el gobernador Abbott están hablando diciendo, hey, si tú no firmas esto, o si no nos apoyas, ¿qué vamos a hacer? Pues la siguiente elección vamos a poner a alguien contra ti, decir que tú no eres muy fuerte contra los inmigrantes. Es lo que van a hacer, es lo que hacen. Pues John en Lamar County dice, ok, está bien, yo lo hago. Yeah. Y es lo que está pasando con todo eso. Pues, claro, tan bonitos números y colores y todo eso, pero al final lo práctico es lo están haciendo en todo. Nada más que estamos en Tyler Hispanic es más grande, más afectado, y por eso lo estamos viendo más aquí en Tyler. Pero por lo práctico es todo lo que estamos haciendo. Todos los condados en este lugar. Entonces, ¿qué podemos hacer nosotros? Lo que yo me quiero enfocar, y hemos hablado con Nick, el otro abogado, es queremos hacer algo civil contra el condado si vemos que están quebrando las leyes, los derechos de los inmigrantes. ¿Okay? Mucha gente no sabe qué pueden hacer. Porque digo, te hablan, están en la cárcel, en 2 o 3 días ya están en México. Entonces, ahora como abogado, ¿qué puedo hacer? Pues depende del límite. Lo que queremos enfocar nosotros es, como ahorita aquí en Tyler, en otros lugares, están parando a alguien, si Juan y María los paran y Juan no tiene licencia, lo que me han dicho a mí el sheriff, lo van a arrestar a Juan porque no tiene licencia. No importa que Juan no tiene la culpa porque la ley no lo deja. Y si ven que no tienen papeles, o perdón, si no tienen licencia, el oficial le va a preguntar sobre su estatus migratorio. Y no nada más a él, también a María, que se va en el carro con él. Y es que nos van a detener a los dos. Y es que nos van a dar la migración. Eso no estaba pasando cuando empezó Trump, que tuvimos una junta con el sheriff. Y él mismo dijo, sí, eso era antes, ahora lo estamos haciendo aquí. ¿Qué vamos a hacer nosotros? En cada mes o cada tantos meses podemos pedir, bajo la ley estatal, los archivos de la cárcel. ¿Cuántas personas arrestaron por este mes por no licencia? Y allí van a hacer la lista. Y si vemos que son casi todos latinos y todos tenían high school, y a los anglos y a los afroamericanos no los arrestaron por no licencia, bandera roja, algo está pasando. Y nosotros como abogados tenemos que hacer demanda contra el Estado o el condado, la persona que lo está haciendo, si vemos que están haciendo racistas, racismo, profiling, cualquier cosa que puedas usar, porque los números no están ahí. Y es cuando yo le he dicho al sheriff y a otros, les vamos a hacer algo si están haciendo esas cosas. Porque si lo van a hacer, tienen que ser un impacto a todos. Pero yo creo que no se va a hacer así. A lo mejor va a durar tiempo para que lleguemos al punto, porque apenas están haciendo eso y con tiempo vamos a sacar los números. Pero también como abogados, nosotros estamos clientes. Y si el migrante los arrestan por no licencia, a la inmigración, y a lo mejor pueden pagar la fianza, a Linda o Gilbert, pagan una fianza a la corte de inmigración y salen y pelean su deportación, pues yo quiero que hablen a mí o a mí para que podamos hacer algo contra el Estado, con el condado, para ver si de verdad si los pararon por delito de tráfico o nada más era por profiling. Por esto lo que están haciendo.
Y nomás para que sepan, nosotros ya estamos haciendo esto por la organización de Dalila y una organización internacional también. One of the things that we're doing, and he's talking about, we have started doing already, we have started doing what we call open records requests. And we received some early on in September from the Bullard Police Department, and they were not a part of the 287G. And one of the things that we noticed is that the officers were asking for the license, and then they were asking for everybody, even the passengers, for their driver's license. Well, why are you asking them for their driver's license? They're not driving. And the reason they were doing it is because, and we have the video, we have several videos. The first video that we came across was 3 individuals, and they asked, do you have a driver's license? And he didn't have a driver's license. Then he turned to ask every other person in the car, do you have a driver's license? And they did not have a driver's license, and he went back to his car, and he got in his car, and he picked up his phone, and he did this. He called the last number he had on his phone, and he gets on his phone, and he says, I have 3 for you. That's literally what he did. We have the video. So this started, this has already started, and we know that, despite what the sheriff's office says, despite what all these counties say, they're going to hit predominantly Hispanic areas. They're going to over-police predominantly Hispanic areas. Why? Because they're going to be using this ICE model. Where else are you going to do it? You're not going to do it in South Tyler. You're not going to do it in those areas. Has anybody seen a video from South Tyler yet? Where they're in South Tyler picking people up, doing these things? No, they're not. So they are, if people think that it doesn't matter because, they're illegals, but everybody lives in these neighborhoods. Should we be over-policed in North Tyler because we have Hispanic people, both citizen and immigrant? No, we shouldn't. And so what Jose Sanchez is talking about is that we need you as the community too to be aware that if your rights are violated, that there are attorneys that can address this. And this is one of the things that we're addressing with, and we will continue to push with our community leaders, is that you are taking on liability for the federal government because you will be engaging in racial profiling because there's just no other way. If the way that you're going to know that I'm an immigrant, how are you going to know I'm an immigrant other than by the way I look? And just because I look brown doesn't mean that I'm necessarily an immigrant. We all kind of look some shade of brown up here. I bet none of you can guess which one of us are born here and not born here.
And you ain't got to be brown to be an immigrant.
Right, and you don't have to be brown to be an immigrant. But my point is that, in general, that's what's going to happen, right? That's what we know is going to happen. And so... Right. Everybody, exactly. We all have rights. And that's why it's important that, and what Mr. Sanchez was talking about, that, we hold them accountable. And the way that we hold them accountable is, they cannot just go around stopping people because we're brown, because you think that we may not have status. And so if you do have that situation, because I saw somebody on our live say, well, they stopped us and they asked us for our status and we're a U.S. citizen. Well, if that's happening to you, you need to report that. I mean, you can let Davila know, you can let Jose Sanchez know, Nick Vecina know, and most of these officers are wearing body cams, so we can request that. Because it's important. It may not be important to other people, but it's important to our community.
No, but the main thing is we have to follow suit. You have to make a complaint.
Yeah.
Porque si no haces nada, van a seguir. El momento que hay uno, que hay otro, y de repente Nick o yo o cualquier persona se demanda, de repente va a ser noticias. ¿Y qué va a pasar? Ellos tienen que pagar abogados a defenderlos. Y tampoco no quieren que las noticias estén diciendo cosas malas de ellos. Y nosotros no vamos a hacer demanda contra ellos. Lo he hecho antes. Pues tenemos que tener cliente. Y si el cliente no quiere, tiene miedo, es porque tú más difícil. Y es algo que tenemos que hacer todo el tiempo.
Y necesitan saber, and just so people know, this has already happened in Smith County. And Danila can tell y'all, and she would never take credit for this, but she's been watching the jail for years, okay? But recently Smith County had to settle, and I don't remember how much it was, maybe $1.5 million recently, because the jail was over detaining individuals, in particular who had mental health issues. And so several attorneys got involved, and the Smith County had to settle that jail complaint, that jail lawsuit in federal court. So we do know that civil litigation works, and so if your rights are violated, you are entitled to seek, compensation. And this has happened in Smith County just recently. This happened this year. And so that's one of the things that we want to take to the commissioner's court to let them know that, they're going to end up probably having to pay out of pocket for these. For one thing, one of the things that we've been talking about is that the commissioner's court should think about, one, why are we doing the job of the federal government? They were given billions of dollars to fund their own efforts to do federal immigration. Why do our local communities have to take on this job for them? So why are we doing that? Why are we taking on this job for them? Well, I have a lot of reasons why, but we don't have time for that. But I don't want to get lost, and I want to give Nick Bacina and Eleno some time, because we want to also address issues that people have questions about. Eleno's here with the TISD board, and we know that people are scared. We know that people we saw a post, and I reached out to Elena on it, and I thought it was important because I saw a post of somebody saying, ICE is at Douglas, or they're picking up people. And, yes, we want the community to report things, but we also want people to be careful, because we don't want people to be scared to take their kids to school. And I understand if you are, but we wanted to invite Elena to speak on that in particular. And then Attorney Bacina is also going to talk to y'all about, I know a lot of people have questions about, cartas de poder, what about their kids, what about their businesses, what about their property. So we want to give them the floor to talk about those things a little bit.
Thank you, Belinda, and thank you, Dalila, and everybody for having me here. I'm here in my own personal capacity as your representative for District 1, which represents the northeast side of Tyler. Right now, I'm going to repeat the same thing I've been saying for the past week. We need to be calm. And people have said, well, how can you be calm when they're detaining people, when they're deporting people? Well, what else are you going to be? If you're not calm, you're going to make bad decisions. Okay, that's just the way it is. Whether somebody dies, whether somebody is deported, whether somebody is treated unjustly, you remain calm and make cool-headed decisions. At the schools, I've been getting reports every day about our attendance to see how that's doing, and I've had them strip out all of the regular population, and by regular I mean non-Hispanic. I want to see what the Hispanic population is doing in regards to enrollment and attendance to see if there's a spike, because if you put it all together, sometimes it'll blend in. We have not seen a significant decrease in attendance by Hispanic kids. That's a good thing. That means you guys are making good decisions and sending your kids to school. Not sending your kids to school is like telling your doctor, I'm not going to take my diabetes medicine to piss you off. Your doctor's not going to be affected at all. You are. You're going to run into truancy issues if they stay out long enough. You're going to run into the kid being so far behind that they will be retained. All kinds of bad things. We have not today, had any presence other than our own officers on campuses. Okay, we have not had them. We've seen stuff out there where people say they were here and they're there and they're dragging babies out. I promise you, that is not happening as of today. So verify that information. It sensationalizes what's going on. Verify before you post. ask a credible source, okay? So any information you need, we've already got a plan. We posted it. Due to my efforts and the other trustees, had to be dragged along a little bit, but that's expected. We have a family preparedness plan that you can look on our website. It's in English and it's in Spanish. I brought some copies. We've sent it out in email, in regular mail, and in text. We sent it out again Monday. I will push it out again from the district in a text. That tells you what to do if your child cannot expect to have the parents pick them up that day, okay? And there could be a number of reasons for that, not just an immigration situation. Somebody may have an accident on the way to school. Somebody may become ill. But the plan is very encompassing. It tells you what we do and do not share with other entities like ICE, like the police department. We have our own police department. We have over 40 police officers, 4 FBI agents that roam the school district, that are under our jurisdiction. It is our understanding from conversations with other agencies that they are going to leave us alone. They want kiddos in school and they want them learning. So any questions, I'm glad to help. Right now, I'm really focused on transportation because people are scared and they don't want to drive. And so we're trying to make accommodations where we can, but we can't please everyone. So that's the English version of it. I'm glad to take any questions. En español, quiero darles un poquito de información del distrito. Tenemos un plan, yo creo que ustedes vieron que lo tuvimos hace como 2 o 3 meses, lo pusimos en el website. Les explica qué hacer en una situación como esta, que alguien no pueda levantar a su niño o a su niña. También les explica qué documentos pueden usar para obtener ese niño o niña o los récords de ese alumno. También les explica otras situaciones que a lo mejor le puedan afectar, qué tipo de información compartimos y qué tipo de información no compartimos. Por favor, fíjense muy bien antes de poner información que no sea verdad, porque lo que estamos haciendo es dañando la propia gente que ustedes dicen que quieren ayudar. Cuando alguien pone algo que no es verdad, afecta. Me hace mi trabajo mucho más duro. No quiero pasármelo otra vez 2 horas en la Griffin verificando que nadie estaba allí. Solo, por favor, chequen sus sources. Cualquier pregunta, llámenme o llamen al distrito. Nosotros estamos allí para ayudarles. Y si tienen cualquier pregunta, pues la puedo tomar o si es para alguien más.
Sits across the street from the high school. So that is reason for concern.
It's embarrassing.
Well, and I'm glad that you brought Chapel Hill up. Because Chapel Hill is actually something that is, I think, something we need to address on an agenda. If you are in Chapel Hill District, I can tell you right now that it is very important that you be aware of what's going on. First of all, this Constable Joplin who signed the 287G agreement. You do have the opportunity this Tuesday, and we're going to be putting out information about going to the Commissioner's Court and saying that you are not in agreement with a local constable wanting to sign a 287G task force, and that is not appropriate because the Sheriff's Department has already signed, and Chapel Hill is a part of Smith County, so why do we need to have every single person be signing up for a task model? Also, in terms of Chapel Hill, there's also a school board meeting on Monday, and that's a general school board meeting. You have the opportunity to go and make comment. We have been made aware of a school board member's spouse making really vile comments online. And we would ask that the Chapel Hill community, those who go to school at Chapel Hill, parents, that you go and you address that at the school board. Because you know what, if our students are held to a standard of not saying certain things and being vile online, then we should hold our elected officials accountable. But we cannot do all of that. So we need members of the community.
If you're a member of the community in Chapel Hill, you need to be aware there is a school board meeting on Monday at 7 o'clock. You do have to sign up to give public comment. If you have concerns about this, you need to reach out to your school board members. This is also why it's so important that we have representation. Eleno ran this last year, and it was so important for us to unite and vote for him, and he won by, I think, how many votes did you win by?
39 votes.
39 votes. That's not very much, but it was enough.
Yeah,
right?
that's
Well, and I just want to say that because it's important, because who represents us means that they're going to do things like this.
Let me say something on top of that. I don't want to get into the political component of this. I already had so much fun with that back in May. This is why it's important. During the campaign, we preached this. This is why it's important that you actually have Latino leaders that are real Latinos, okay? Not just a Spanish surname, but a real Latino that lives in your neighborhoods, that knows your problems, that has your values, that has your back. I don't see those other ones standing up, okay? They're hiding. They're underneath a rock somewhere. And it's important that we back each other up. And you look here, I'm not living anywhere else. This is where they're going to bury me. And look years from now and see which ones are still up here fighting in your corner and which ones are hiding behind a rock. Okay, so that's important. And the fundamental thing is get out and vote. We can try to work with this situation because it's going to get rougher. We're going to try to work with this, but at the end of the day, the next go around, get back out and keep going around.
Not just that, but we have an opportunity coming up. There's several openings for people to run for office. And we would invite good candidates from our communities to really throw your hats in the ring, and then if they do, support them, because they're the ones that are going to come out like Eleno's here today and be here for us, So it's really important, and that's something that as a community, we're trying to come together now. Look, if we haven't gotten along with each other before, if you don't like so-and-so, or so-and-so did this to you, or so-and-so, it's a small community, I know. Así no somos, ¿verdad? Nos peleamos uno al otro, pues a mí no me gusta ahora es el tiempo a unirnos. Si esos las iglesias que se unen, si esos los diferentes negocios, diferentes abogados, todos nosotros tenemos que unirnos ahorita en este tiempo. So si alguien de ustedes quiere correr para algo, necesitamos que no nomás corren buenas personas que van a representarnos, pero también que ustedes salgan y que se registran a votar y que ayuden en esos campaigns, porque esto es tan importante, ¿verdad? Que estemos representados ahorita, especialmente en North Tyler. La razón que estamos teniendo este evento aquí donde estamos teniéndolo es porque cuando estábamos queriendo hacer esto, dije, no, tenemos que hacerlo aquí en nuestra comunidad que está afectada, es North Tyler. So, por eso estamos aquí, y gracias a Salinas Events que ellos donaron esto para no tenemos que pagar para esto. Gracias, Eleno, por estar aquí, porque de veras es importante que estemos representados. Y si no tienes eso en Chapel Hill, pues necesitamos buscar a personas que hagan eso.
He's doing an amazing job of getting these statistics and making sure that it's trending well. Who is doing that for Chapel Hill?
Well, that's a good question. That on Monday at 7 o'clock, I want you to be at that Chapel Hill meeting asking. Yeah, and I vote and I invite anybody else who's in the Chapel Hill School District, because one of the things that we know about the Chapel Hill School District is it's 51% Hispanic. And I want y'all to know that the Hispanic community, not only in East Texas, but in Texas, is a large community. And we do have power. But we have to take that power back by actually showing up and talking to these people, and also voting and showing that we are engaged in the process. The reason they don't care about what we think is because we don't vote. The reason they don't care is because we don't show up like other voices and say the things that we need to say. So I invite all of you, I mean, you stole the words right out of my mouth, is yes, and we'll be posting something about that so you can sign up and go talk to your school board members, even if it's not Chapel Hill, there's other schools.
You've got a Hispanic trustee on your board.
Yes, you do have a Hispanic trustee.
You need to be on his ass and tell him, come on, let's see. I get a report every day that tells me what absentee rates are, not just that.
I can tell you personally, there has been changes. The pickup line is extremely quicker. I mean, I don't complain about that now, but when you know what the root cause is, it's reason for concern. I can tell that there's issues by how quick we move through our lines.
Yeah, you may have noticed that we moved all our pickup lines into the interior of the schools, if it is allowed, if we have the capacity. So you're not sitting in line on a public road to running that risk. You're in our jurisdiction and then you're out of there. And we're thinking about that because that's what I was elected to do, to help you guys in these situations.
So when I go, would it also be appropriate to speak about the constable?
So the good thing, so you have to know the rules whenever you go and give public comment. So Dalila has agreed to do a sign-up sheet if you want to go on Tuesday and speak or just be there, because there are rules, and if you break them, especially the commissioner's court, they won't try to arrest you. So it is very important to know the rules. Now, we have already looked up the Chapel Hill School Board rules for Monday, and it's a general meeting. So at a general meeting, you can give general comment, but you do have to sign up ahead of time, and you do. So we'll be providing all that information and the link because it opens 72 hours before. So
I'm gonna say something quick.
real quick, and then we're going to go on to the next business.
Yeah.
What I was going to say is, yes, that's great, having people to sign up, but I do think that the majority of people that would be interested in giving a general comment would appreciate having some sort of talking point instead of just, hey, send me in there, because your comment, folks, we don't, at least I don't.
Right, and we're organizing. We are going to talk about that at the end. Organizing the two big things that we're hoping to organize for next week are the commissioners meeting on Tuesday, because they are going to be taking. They do have to allow public comment on the 287G with this constable, which covers Chapel Hill in particular. So that's open for public comment, and Dalila is going to be heading that up and giving y'all information about how you can do that and make sure that you don't get arrested doing it. And then as far as the school board meeting, I'll be giving information, and then
No, nomás quería decir que eso de votar es bastante importante, porque no va a pasar cambios si no votan. Y un grupo que nunca hablamos, que es muy, muy importante, es los hijos de los inmigrantes. En mayo va a ser la elección de alcalde, ¿no? Aquí en Tyler. Si todos los hijos que son 18 años y son ciudadanos, de padres que no tienen papeles, los que están afectados ahorita, si ellos se registran y votan juntos, ellos van a controlar quién gana alcalde aquí en Tyler. Así de fácil.
nosotros
Así
sabemos
de fácil.
algo que ellos no saben. Ellos creen que los inmigrantes están solos, pero no son solos. Casi todos los inmigrantes que vienen a mi oficina vienen y tienen 3, 4, 5 hijos que son ciudadanos, ¿verdad? O esposas, o hermanos, o primos. Nosotros no estamos solos aquí. So, cada consulta que yo tengo con los inmigrantes les digo, mira, sus hijos necesitan estar registrados a votar y votar, porque es tan importante. Ustedes no tienen voz en esto, pero ellos sí tienen. Y tu voz es multiplicado por cuántos hijos tienes. So, es tan importante que nosotros empezamos a hablar con nuestros hijos qué importante es ser registrado a votar y votar, porque eso es importante para sus familias. So, sabemos eso. Pero quiero darle oportunidad a Nick Pesina, porque él trabaja en el área familiar y tiene mucha información de cartas de poder. Y nosotros, yo sé como abogada de inmigración, yo agarro preguntas todo el tiempo de qué puedo hacer con mi propiedad, con mi negocio, qué va a pasar, y de veras yo no sé. So, yo se lo paso al abogado.
Belinda, gracias, y gracias a todos ustedes por estar aquí. Obviamente es un tema sumamente importante para todos porque nos afecta. Primeramente los niños. Y no voy a parar porque de chaparro. Pero los niños, ¿verdad?
No tanto.
No dije el más chaparro, pero sí chaparro. Pero los niños es nuestro futuro, ¿verdad? Y si estamos cuidando a nuestros hijos, van a asistir a las escuelas, se van a educar, algún día van a ser abogados aquí, líderes en la comunidad, dueños de negocios y todo eso. Entonces, primeramente, cada persona que tiene una familia con estatus mixto, en otras palabras, que los padres quizás no tienen documentación y los hijos son ciudadanos, el código familiar, el Texas Family Code, deja que designen una persona y esa persona está empoderada de hacer decisiones médicas y de educación. So in other words, the Texas Family Code allows you to designate an authorized caregiver, okay? And that person is authorized to make medical decisions and educational decisions if the parents aren't available. Obviously, in these current times, that is very important. So we're doing that at my firm, Vecino Law Firm. You can call us. The numbers, just Google the page, but 903-202-2797. We will do these absolutely for free. All we need is everyone's information, dates of birth of the children, and who you're going to have as your authorized caregiver. Y'all come to our office, we'll prepare the documents for you. And look, I'm not telling you it fixes anything, but it helps. The plans that the school board has worked on, the preparedness that Gilbert has talked about, and my colleagues and friends up here, it is just one more tool in the toolbox to be prepared for what could happen. Hopefully, you never have to use it, but there are some specific requirements. I know that there's some people in the community that are also doing it, but understand that you've got to mail it to the other parent. You've got to have a last known address. If the other parent has passed away, obviously you don't have to comply with that aspect of it, but there are some aspects of it that need to be complied with. En otras palabras, esa autorización tiene requisitos que sí se tienen que cumplir para ser válida la carta poder. Otra pregunta que recibimos mucho son cartas de poder de propiedades, de bienes. Nosotros específicamente en mi oficina no estamos haciendo esas cartas, pero un colega mío, Eric Antunes, de Antunes Law Firm, se ofreció para preparar esas cartas poder para propiedades y todo eso. Y es importante porque, como dijo mi gran amigo Gilberto, que cuando estaba en Arizona la gente se estaba yendo, dejando sus propiedades, sus bienes, así es que no tiene sentido trabajar una vida en este país y dejar lo que ha acumulado, así es que es importante proteger no solamente a nuestros hijos, pero los bienes. So I'm not doing power of attorney letters for real estate or assets, but one of my colleagues, Eric Antunes, who's a Tyler boy, went to back then it was Robert E. Lee Legacy High School. He's a lawyer. He's willing to do those at no cost. So thank y'all for letting me be here. I just wanted to come to share that. We obviously are offering those services for free, so gratuitos. And additionally, I did just want to make a quick comment about elections having consequences. Okay? Elections have consequences. And Elena and I have disagreed on a lot of things, but this man's fighting for our community. Okay? So every election has a consequence. So it doesn't matter if you're starting with the orange man in the White House or somebody on Tyler ISD school board. And I don't care if you're a Republican, Democrat, Independent, Green, I don't give a damn. At the end of the day, it has consequences, okay? And I promise you, if you study history, it will show you what happens. Our African-American brothers and sisters went through this, right? The Civil Rights Movement, Jim Crow laws. The Irish went through this, through the Irish famine when they were coming. The Italians that came through Ellis Island. Our Muslim brothers and sisters after 9/11. Every generation in history has a target on their back, and right now that target's on us. So either we're going to sit around and worry, or we're going to do something about it. And all of you, everybody in here, doesn't matter if you're a lawyer, doesn't matter if you speak publicly, doesn't matter, you have the power to not spread fake news and help each other out. All right, because we have a shared history. Tenemos una historia unida, todos. En toda la historia de este país, atacan a alguien, ¿verdad? Eran los afroamericanos, eran los italianos que estaban llegando, los musulmanes que cuando pasó eso del 9/11, ahora somos nosotros. Y no acaba de comenzar, comenzó en 2006. Y está pasando, it continues to happen. So it's time for us to get up, get acting. I have a lot of respect for Delilah, for everything that she does, watching the jails. I mean, if they're arresting people for driver's licenses, that's what we're arresting for. I mean, raise your hand if you want dangerous criminals in your community. None of us want that. No one. There's not a person in this community who's going to say, yeah, you know, we want rapists to roam free on the road. We all want a safe community. We all want our children to be educated, and we all want a chance. Eso es lo que queremos todos. Una comunidad segura, una oportunidad para nuestros hijos, y una oportunidad para nosotros. So, you know, thank y'all for doing what you do. Keep fighting. It's just getting started. And, you know, one question I do have about the 287G program is obviously Senate Bill 8 passed, and there is the requirement for the sheriffs. But does the bill say how many of the sheriff's deputies have to be deputized under 287G?
No, he gets to decide how many.
Exactly. He gets to decide how many. He could deputize one deputy and comply with the law. So any excuse about, oh, the law says and the governor said X, Y, Z, no. You can deputize one. It's the example that Gilbert gave. If you got 3 hunters and 15 deer, you're not a lot of danger, right? Well, you can deputize one. And ask yourself,
and unfortunately, if you look back at the testimony from, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, that Dalila was there, the sheriff said he wanted to run all of his deputies through this program. That he doesn't have to do that.
Well, that's why they're doing it. They get a reimbursement. They get to be reimbursed for all of that.
So let me clarify on that, because I think that there's this misunderstanding. So I will tell you, so we were at county commissioners meeting, the pastor and I, so I'm going to go ahead and have the pastor come up here, because we were at the meeting. We heard the sheriff. Come on. So el pastor y yo y el pastor Modesto fuimos a la junta. So lo que dice, desde cuando él firmó el contrato en febrero hasta que ese día que nosotros fuimos a la junta, we as taxpayers have been paying for this. So just we're clear, we as taxpayers, since he signed the contract in February up until that day when they signed, and they weren't renewing the contract, they were just signing so they can get their bank account open so the federal government can send money. Here's what they did already offer, okay? They offered $100,000, right, Pastor? Is that $100,000? That's what the federal government has offered the sheriff. So no, we have not received money for it. We've been paying for it, taxpayers. If you ask me how much it costs to incarcerate an individual, and the reason I get worked up about it, because we keep saying, oh, we're not paying for it. Yes, we are paying. People that are sitting in a county jail for pre-trial, and most of your population in a county jail is individuals that are pre-trial. They have not been convicted of a crime. With that being said, the average cost for someone who has a mental illness is about $169 per day. If you're healthy, the average cost, they say, is about $69 per day. So no, we haven't been really reimbursed back. We've been paying for it since February. So no, that is misinformation, okay? Now what it also said that it was $7,500 that each deputy was going to get reimbursed for. So let's do the math. $7,500 for each deputy times 32, that's still for all those folks, and we cannot put a price tag for each individual that we have separated. There's no way. On Nancy, I cannot put a price tag. No way, at least for me on a personal level. And I'm sorry I get worked up about it, because we are paying for it. And I will say that we should be upset, and we should be holding all our elected officials. I know these young ladies from the DA's office, and I say that because I also hold my DA, Jacob Putman, accountable. I don't know how many times I've seen him there, right? They see me there. I'm pretty sure when they hear me coming, oh damn, it's that girl again. But he works for us. Jacob Putman, and I tell him all the time, Jacob, sheriff, the judges, they all work for all the deputies inside that jail. They work for us. That jail belongs to us. And we've been paying for too much harm that has been caused to our community.
Algo que pasó cuando estábamos allí, que se firmó el dinero, algo que no se mencionó y que estamos viendo es que cada vez que hay dinero hay cuotas envueltas. Y nadie ha hablado si hay cuotas en Tyler, y eso es algo que tenemos que preguntar, porque se supone que se público. Pero todos los demás sitios donde hay dinero envuelto hay cuotas, y para mí fue muy raro que se firme el martes y el miércoles estén tocando puertas. So, si tú lo haces así de rápido es porque alguna cuota hay en eso.
Y eso es la razón que en el condado de Dallas, ellos querían que ellos firmaran y le estaban ofreciendo mucho dinero en Dallas, $25 millones, pero el sheriff ahí dijo no, porque hay una cuota y vamos a tener que diario arrestar 50 personas para que nos paguen ese dinero. Y él dijo, nosotros no vamos a gastar nuestros policías haciendo eso, porque a un punto van a tener que buscar a gente que de veras no tiene problemas, ¿verdad? Y eso es un problema. Eso es una pregunta muy importante. ¿Cuánta gente tienen que arrestar? Y no están diciendo ahorita, pero sabemos que hay algo, ¿verdad? It's a quota. Well, we don't know, but we do know that in Dallas County, that the sheriff, it was reported that, for one thing, they said no to 287G in a task force in Dallas. And the reason they said that was because they were being offered $25 million. But they came out and said, and I think it was the sheriff who said it, that the quota was going to be 50 people per day. And he said, in order for us to meet that, we're going to have to use all sorts of resources and potentially have to go to Home Depots or to places where Hispanic people are, and just be looking for people in order for us to get reimbursed that money. We have not heard anything yet from Smith County. It's not been revealed as to whether there's a particular quota of how many people that they have to actually arrest under this program so that they can receive money.
So the only way they can meet the quota is to break the quota.
Well, those are questions that need to be asked. Exactly. We don't know.
We don't know if there is or is not.
The question came up for me when Dallas County said that. That indicated to me that that's a question we should be asking here in Smith County. If you're going to be getting money, are they going to expect something back from you? I'm assuming so, right? So those are questions of transparency that we have to ask on a local level. What does this mean for us?
And that's the same for the sheriff or any other constable?
That's a good question. Yes, these are all questions that we have, and one of the things that I think, Dalila has worked very hard for, and this is all of our job now. This is not just Dalila's job. This is why we're having this meeting, is because, one, I can tell you that none of us, even though we all know each other, have sat like this ever before, right? Like, we all know each other, but we haven't come together like this. Some of you all know each other, but you haven't come together like this before. And so a part of this meeting was for all of us to come together and say, we as a community, we as community leaders, and not just us, have to start asking these questions. We need to start bringing more people in to start asking these questions. And I would like to say also, we have been on live, and so we wanted to make this available to people who are not able to be here because of the fear that they have. But I have also been watching the live, and I will say that we as a community also, we need to stop hating on each other. We need to stop attacking each other. None of us are perfect. Like I said, I know that we've all had our things. This is a time to come together. This is a time to put our stuff aside and come together. And because one of the things I do want to address and go back to is that we do have power. I think for too long we haven't done anything because we felt like we didn't have power, but we do. And that is part of the problem, is that we feel like we don't have power. But we have a large Hispanic community here. Texas is 40% Hispanic. If we got together and we united and we actually voted, we would have representation. We would have good leaders. We would have people who are speaking up for us. If you look at the Texas legislature right now, it does not look like us. It does not represent us, or else we wouldn't be sitting here today. And I want to bring up, just before we kind of get to questions and try to let everybody go home for the night, I think it's very important that we bring this out because I'm still talking to people every day. If you know members of the community who have DACA in Texas, we are coming very close to them having to move out of Texas. I want you to know that Texas has the second largest community of DACA members in the whole country. We have close to 100,000 people who have DACA in Texas, and we are currently waiting on a federal judge to, not if he rules, but when he rules, that Texas has basically gotten rid of their DACA people. They are going to take away the work permits, they're going to take away their licenses, and the rumor right now is that potentially it's going to be on November 24th that this order comes down. One, I say that because we need to come together as a community to start helping our DACA members. A lot of them are scared. A lot of them are single moms. A lot of them just bought houses. A lot of them don't know what they're going to do. How can we come together as a community, as pastors, as churches, as community members to assist them because they are going to have to move. How quickly they're going to have to move, I'm not sure. But I can tell y'all this. I'm a lifelong Texan, and I'm ashamed that we have allowed this to happen in Texas. Because we, as Texans, those of us who are eligible to vote and are able to vote and have not, we have allowed this hateful policy to go into effect. And we are going to see the consequences of these past elections. And we need to start preparing the DACA community for that. When the order comes down, it could have an immediate effect, or we're hoping that the federal judge will say that they have until their DACA expires. I want y'all to know, and many of you do know this, but there are DACA people in Texas. They are lawyers, they are nurses, they are licensed social workers who work for the state of Texas. They are teachers, they are teachers' assistants, they are jailers, they are people in our communities, and we need to know that, and I'm telling DACA people, when you leave your job, you tell them, I'm leaving because of Abbott and Paxton and their lawsuit against DACA Dreamers. That is the truth, and we have to own it as Texans. And that is going to be happening very soon, and that is very sad. And as a community, we need to come around our DACA kids, because a lot of, especially for those of you who have been lifelong East Texans, it's really hard to leave East Texas. And if you've never been outside of East Texas, I tell my DACA kids every time they come in, I said, I know it's going to be hard for you to move. When I went away to law school, I went to Lubbock, 7 hours away, and I remember I cried for the first 3 months. I was so homesick. But I was okay. And you know what? And I tell them they're going to be okay too. So we have to provide them with support, because it's going to be really hard for them to do this. So if you know DACA people, talk to them, come around them, help them to get resources. I've been telling them, talk to your churches, talk to your employer, maybe they can transfer you. They need to start making plans now. And I say that here because I think a lot of you maybe don't know this, and I know even a lot of the DACA kids that I'm talking to didn't know. And so we need to start preparing them for this. And it's unfortunate, but we do have midterm elections next year, and we have an opportunity as Hispanics to stand up and unite and say, we do not want these radical policies against immigrants in Texas. It's very important that we do this. So we want to close and give everybody the opportunity to kind of mingle and talk. And Dalita's going to have a sign-up sheet if you're interested in going to the County Commissioner's Court. Just so you know, everybody won't be able to speak on this. They do have 10 slots available, 3 minutes each. So we do want to coordinate so that we have the opportunity. But even if you can't come, we're going to provide information. You need to call your county commissioner. You need to, if you can't call them, go to their office. Like Dalila said, they work for you. And the county commissioner who represents North Tyler, I'm going to tell y'all right now, is Reverend Caraway. So that you don't have to look them up. You don't have to wonder who it is. I'm telling you now, that is who it is. So that is who you need to look up and call. That is whose office you need to go and visit. You represent North Tyler, and we expect you to represent us and not sign these things. It's not okay. And if you go back and look at the county commissioner's court last week, I believe that he did ask a question about racial profiling. Right, Pastor Avila? There was a question about that.
5-0 vote, 5-0 vote.
So there was no commissioner that said no. And we've got to change the tide on that because they represent us. And if they don't want to represent us, then they won't represent us anymore, right? So we're asking that you guys sign up with Dalila. And if you're not able to give comment, come anyways. It is important that we show up. We have to show up. We can't just be online being mad about what's happening. We can't just, we actually have to show up and do stuff. And that's why we're asking everybody here to do that. Also, again, another call that we'll be putting out, Chapel Hill School Board a meeting on Monday.
There's a large Hispanic population in Chapel Hill, but you have to show up.
You have to show up and talk to the school board, and you have to address the concerns that you have. They should be willing to do what Eleno's doing here for the TISD board. You know why he's here? Because he represents y'all, and he should be here, right? And we need to hold our elected officials accountable. They represent you, and if they don't want to represent you, then they shouldn't be our elected officials, okay? So I think I'm going to let Dalila close.
Yes,
and then
and I do want to clarify something I said, but this is amazing to hear. So in Bullard, they were having their city council member, and 287G was on the agenda item for it to be a task force model. The young lady in the back told me, thanks to them and the other individuals in the back, they were able to get theirs tabled. And that was because people showed up, right? Because people showed up and have been paying attention because this is spreading like wildfire. So lo voy a decir en español. So en Bullard, ellos tenían hoy la junta con su alcalde y sus miembros y este programa, el Task Force, estaba en la agenda. Pero porque personas fueron a la junta, no pasaron eso, pero sí van a regresar para atrás, ponerlo para atrás en la agenda, porque ellos piensan que nosotros no vamos a poner atención. So this is why we must show up, even if people discourage you. I will tell you what the sheriff told me when I started showing up to county commissioners meeting 5 years ago, and that was during COVID, okay? During COVID with my daughter. He said, Delilah, it falls on deaf ears. Why do you come? But I still showed up for 2.5 years. Now, they did change some rules on me and said, oh, now you can only speak if it's on the agenda items. But then we found some loopholes. So there is always a way that you can come to county commissioners meeting, your city council member, because you get to know and you get to see the decisions that they make, and then you get to hold them accountable. So I will close with that.
And that's the benefit of East Texas, right? We're a small community.
This can either bring us together or tear us apart, right? So many of you know people that know people that know people. We need to start having these conversations. We need to start telling them that we're not okay with this. Are we going to allow the federal government, are we going to allow Austin to tear apart East Texas community because they have their agenda? Or are we going to say, you know what, no, this is our community. Let us do our community how we've always done it, because we've had a good community for the most part. And if they want to bring their agendas here and bring the fight here, well, we have no choice but to fight back, right? And the way that we do that is by letting them know that we're not okay with it, okay? So thank you all for being here. We have so much information for y'all over there. Please take advantage. We do plan to do this regularly.
For some of you that know, there's several pastors here, and I want to thank each of the pastors that came here. And do y'all mind standing?
Pastors, I know that y'all are not used to standing in front of crowds, but if you represent a church here, can you please stand? And I just want to tell y'all something. These pastors that just stood, we have been meeting with these pastors for a few months now. My office has started holding pastors meetings, and each one of them showed up. And let me tell you why that's important. Because they care about their community. And I've been giving them information about what's going on with immigration because they're concerned about their people. And so I just wanted y'all to know that as I looked at each of them that came here, each one of them has showed up to every pastor's meeting that we've had. And I want to thank them for being here because it matters to the people that we represent. And I hope that if you attend a church, that you go and you talk to your pastor and tell them that it's important too, that they be involved because this really matters. It matters to their parishioners, and people are going to stop going to church too, and we don't want that either. We don't want people to stop going to church. We don't want kids to stop going to school because I know something that they don't know. They want to stop our children from getting educated, but they're too late, okay? UT Tyler currently has 25% Hispanic population, student population. I went to Oklahoma City Law School to give a talk. My future daughter-in-law invited me, and I met 3 students there from East Texas that are in law school. I was shocked. I didn't even know. And there are so many more students that are going to law school, that are going and getting educated. Don't give up hope. You know, keep getting educated, keep moving, because we're changing the tide in East Texas. Maybe my generation didn't, but the next generation definitely is, because they're getting educated, and that's what they don't want.
Gilberto mentioned, let me speak, I can do both. Mencionó en el 2010 Arizona. Por Arizona fue que yo me envolví en esto. 2011 estuvimos en el Capitolio peleando contra la SB4 y ¿sabe qué? Le ganamos. 2015 volvimos al Capitolio a pelear. Estuvimos allá. Cuando se vino la votación que se aprobó en 2004, que fue Mike Schaefer, el que mantuvo los representantes cautivos. Yo estuve una semana antes con Mike Schaefer en el Capitolio. Me dio un abrazo, me dijo gracias porque no sabía nada de esto. Y fue el que yo esperaba que iba a hacer algo, no, porque fue hasta allá, fue el que me dio nos dio la puñalada y mantuvo cautivo a los representantes hasta que se pasara la SB4. Tenemos que entender algo, estamos hablando de la comunidad. Algo que tenemos que entender es que estamos en el área más conservadora de Texas. No es porque nos unamos, no, de verdad. Tiene que haber una concientización en nosotros. Para mí, yo estoy de acuerdo, las demandas son importantes, yo creo que las demandas deben venir. Si yo pregunto a ti, de verdad, ¿cuántos de ustedes aquí asisten a alguna iglesia, católica, la que sea? Alce su mano. Mira, los cambios en esta nación de los derechos civiles vinieron a través de las iglesias. Tenemos que volver a ese modelo. Hay 2 cosas, y perdón, es que créeme que yo tenía que trabajar y falté a mi trabajo para estar aquí. Tenemos que hacer colisiones, y para mí esto es muy importante, y lo tenemos que hacer con los mareros. No es sencillamente llamar a Ralph Kerman, es que de verdad necesitamos unirnos de tal manera. Yo estoy empezando ahora a tener conversaciones, yo me voy a unir con un montón de pastores morenos. Necesitamos tener la fuerza de cuando hay un moreno corriendo, nosotros apoyarlo, de que cuando hay un hispano corriendo, los morenos nos apoyen, mientras nosotros no nos unamos con ellos, porque mucha gente no nos gustan los morenos, vamos a estar claros. Muchos hispanos no les gustan. Este es el punto, no es de que si me gustan, de que no me gustan, este es el punto de que ambos estamos en el mismo barco y vamos a sufrir. Yo quiero que usted entienda algo. Yo he oído mucho que lo que faltan es 3 años de Trump y esto se acaba. Si tú piensas esto, Trump dañó esto de tal manera que es una mentalidad. Si usted cree eso, aguántese para 4 años más después de los otros 3. Necesitamos de verdad unirnos de tal manera que traigamos un cambio, de que nos vean. Hay que dejar diferencias a un lado. Uno de los problemas que yo he visto y lo traigo aquí para que después lo discutan es que yo digo, deben. La verdad es que la gente no sabe. Yo he estado ahora trabajando con varios estudiantes
no entienden nada del proceso. He estado hablando con gente, no entienden el proceso. Lo primero que tiene que pasar es, y esa es una de mis propósitos, tenemos que comenzar a trabajar con los pastores de todas las congregaciones, de toda la fe. Necesitamos educar a nuestra gente en las congregaciones. Los pastores nos deben abrir la puerta para hacer eso. Diga bien, va a haber pastores que no van a estar a favor. Ahí entran los congregantes de decirle al pastor, ¿sabe qué? Esto es importante porque esto afecta a mi familia y usted está para darme una buena palabra, para cuidarme, para proveerme, y creemos que debe abrir usted la puerta para que eduquen a nuestra gente, porque si no, créanme, esto está comenzando. Algo que usted tiene que entender, y aquí me callo. ¿Sabe cuánta gente me ha dicho a mí? Esto es por culpa de Biden. No, déjame decirte algo. Si Biden no hubiese ganado, lo que está pasando igual venía. La razón por la que no pasó fue porque vino una pandemia y después Trump perdió. Pero yo venía diciendo, todo lo que está pasando es lo que va a pasar. ¿Por qué? Porque nosotros no... para el 2015 ya había comenzado un blueprint. Esto no es nuevo, de todo lo que va a pasar. Estuvimos educando a la gente, estuvimos hablando, esto es lo que viene, esto es lo que viene, esto es lo que viene. Eso no se crea, porque yo he hablado con muchas personas blancas que dicen, no, fue culpa de Biden lo que está pasando. No se deje tomar de tonto. Si Biden no hubiese salido, esto hubiese pasado. El ataque es contra los hispanos, el ataque es racista y el ataque es real y no va a mejorar. Por lo tanto, yo creo que sí debemos tener estas conversaciones, pero sí debemos ya comenzar y se debe crear un grupo de comenzar a planificar cómo es que se va a unir la cosa, cómo es que porque...
Pues eso es lo que estamos haciendo hoy. Esto es el empiezo de lo que queremos hacer hoy, que la gente empiece a educarse y ver cómo pueden ayudar. Les puedo decir que hay personas que donaron, comida, refrescos, o ahí atrás hay refrescos si alguien quiere levantarlo. Han ofrecido dinero para hacer lo que los materiales que tienen ahorita. Cada una de nosotros tenemos una manera de hacer diferentes cosas. Yo no voy a hacer las mismas cosas que Gilbert va a hacer. Ustedes posiblemente, puedo hacer esto. Queremos empezar hoy a unir la comunidad a hacer estas cosas. Y quiero decirles esto porque bien importante. Yo he oído esto alrededor de los argumentos de inmigración. Pues ellos entraron ilegal, ellos se deben de ir, que todos se deben de ir. Pues yo quiero que estén educados de cómo confrontar esto. I've heard the argument being made, and even in Christian circles, right? Well, they came illegally, so they should just leave. Deport them all. That is something that has become mainstream among people who are anti-immigrant. And I just want to address that really quick. If you say deport them all, you are saying break the law. Because the law does not allow us to deport everyone. There are laws that protect immigrants who have been here for a certain amount of time, or are married to U.S. citizens, or immigrants have rights in this country. So when you say deport them all, you are actually asking us to violate immigration laws as well. So yes, there are laws in place that also protect immigrants. And I want y'all to know, because there are a lot of lies that are being told. And one of the things that the administration has started doing is reinterpreting the law to where they are not giving people bonds, right? They're holding them in detention until they give up. Well, guess what the law says? And over 100 federal judges have ruled against the administration, and yet they continue to hold people without bond. There are writs of habeas being filed all over the country, and yet this administration continues to hold people without bond. That is against the law. So we have immigration laws that are being broken, and it's not by the immigrants. So when you hear people say deport them all, remind them that that would be breaking the law. because there are laws in place that give them protections, and there's a reason they give them protections, because they have children in the U.S., they have parents in the U.S., they have spouses in the U.S. There are reasons why immigrants are allowed to stay in the United States under our laws. So don't buy into that. But I know there was a question from someone.
No era pregunta, nomás que está bueno estas juntas, pero lo importante no es nomás escuchar. Cuando las votaciones es cuando debemos de hablar. Ahí está su voz. When you go and vote, that's when it counts. We could sit here all night. We can know everything, know all the laws, but if we don't vote, it's just gonna go, it's gonna fly. You're gonna know about it, but that's it. Es todo lo que vamos a hacer. Vamos nomás a escuchar. Y cuando nos preguntan, sí, gracias. Pero ¿sabes qué? Si tú tienes 18 años y eres ciudadano, ve a votar. How many votes are de hispanos cuando hay votaciones locales?
Dalila, ¿dónde estás?
Ella dijo nada.
Less than 5%.
Less than 5% dijo Eleno, de hispanos.
De hispanos cuando las votaciones locales.
Less than 5%. Menos del 5%.
¿Cuántos hispanos votan localmente? Eleno dijo 5%.
Oh, I wouldn't even give 5%. So yo me lancé 2 veces. So yo diría que somos menos de 1% que personas que vienen a votar en las votaciones.
Dalila, cuando corriste por, I think County Commissioner, right?
No, City Council member. Right.
¿Cuántos votos?
So la primera vez cuando los lanzamos, there were less than 33 Hispanic surnames, is what Leno told me, and we did go through those. Less than 33 people had been to a city council to vote in a local election. I had never voted at a local elections, so when I ran for office, that was the first time that I had ever voted. Then, so I think we need to...
So no shame in that.
Yeah, no shame. I'm not guilty.
But we do want to let people know how important it is and how just people registering and voting would make a difference.
Yeah, we were, I think 133 the first time, and then I think the second time we increased quite a bit.
218, something like that.
218, so...
Less than 5% of your electorate in most local elections have Spanish surnames, okay? But we have over 1,200 just in that district that are registered. You got 1,200 registered Spanish surnames that can go vote, but less than 36 showed up. Now, I will tell you this. Probably double that. Now, I will tell you this. I'm really proud of this last one we went to because we focused on and paid really good attention and tried to campaign in a way we thought that they would respond. And we had 48% of the voters that turned out in that election had Spanish surnames. We won 279 votes. 200 of those were Spanish surnames. So you can do it. It's just you want to do it.
I do want to say that, so I work in Tyler ISD, and your child, if they're 18, if they're 17, the next voter registration deadline is in the spring. And your English teachers, they give out the voter registration form for the kids to sign up. So like you said earlier, there's a lot of illegal immigrants here that have children that go to school that have the right to vote. So encourage your kids to go to their English teachers, especially your seniors, to go ahead and register and vote because we offer that in the school district. Tyler ISD has all of their English teachers, Rise, Early College, Tyler High, Tyler Legacy. We all encourage our kids to go and vote. And like you said, whenever I go and pick up the forms and I drop them off at the registration thing, it's not a lot. It's not a lot. We pull a survey of all the kids that are 17, about to be 18 for the voter registration deadline, and there's lots of them, but not many registered to vote. So encourage your kids, your children, especially if they're 17, if they're about to be 18, the next voter registration is going to be in the spring. So it just encourage your kids to go and vote.
And also you want to channel your energy correctly. Because what we do is we see a lot of people that are on social media and they attack someone and then they spend a lot of time and effort responding to that. Ignore it. Don't respond to that. If they make a comment, do something else positive and direct your energy to something else. Look at it. It may make you feel some type of way, and then just keep going and just focus on something that's truly important.
But if it's the spouse of an elected official,
Well,
don't let them know.
And it could be that there was a protest at Burkeville Park, and then someone made a obscene gesture, and that person, one good friend of mine told me the other day. She said, you got to pray for that person so that they can change their way. Somehow their heart is not correct. So take them in consideration. Even Jesus said, forgive them for they do not know what they're doing. We have to go back and think about that. There's money involved. Judas sold out Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. We know that. So we have to get back to that mentality, follow that profile, follow that example, and let that guide us. It's the only way we're going to be successful.
Well, and we know it works because
We watched the civil rights movement, and that was led by the churches, and they led protests peacefully. They took it to the people. They showed what was happening to them. So we do have a model for that. We have one quick comment left, and then we're going to let people start. If you have questions or you want to be involved in something, just if you can approach.
Thank you all for doing this. First of all, thank you all for having us. My name is Dax Alexander. I am currently running for United States Congress here in District 1. So thank you for all the encouragement about voting. I would like to echo all that. I actually had a very specific question in addition to the comment, if it's okay.
Who are you running against?
That seat is currently held by Nathaniel Moran. So that's United States Congress, CD1. That's up in Washington, D.C.
And I would just like to say that we have had several pastors' meetings where
We have invited Nathaniel Moran to come and speak, and he has not even returned our calls or our emails. So that's how little he cares about what's going on in our districts. So I do want y'all to know that because we have purposely requested that he come, and he doesn't. And from what I hear, he's a regular at the Republican Ladies' Lunch at that same place. So obviously he does not care about, talking to the people he represents.
I was at an event similar to this out in Nacogdoches recently, and an immigration lawyer there had brought up a tactic that ICE was using was basically showing up at people's doors with something called an administrative warrant, which does not hold the same weight as what people typically would imagine a warrant from a judge would hold, and they're essentially tricking people into giving them access to their homes to search. Is that something that we've also heard about going on here, or is that something that we need to be aware of? I just wanted to ask them.
Yeah, so la pregunta es que, ¿qué es la diferencia en que ellos pueden venir a su casa con una, how do you say warrant? Orden administrativo. Eso es diferente que un orden de un juez, ¿ok? Judicial. Ellos no pueden usar eso para hacer que usted abre su puerta, que salga, y sí es algo que posiblemente ellos van a enseñar. Yo sé que miré un video aquí en East Texas donde habían llegado y tienen video que llegaron a su casa y tocaron. Necesitan saber que mientras que no tengan una orden judicial, no pueden entrar a su casa y usted ni tiene que contestar. Normalmente nosotros le dijimos a la gente que ni contesten la puerta, que no tienen que hablar con ellos, no tienen que contestar la puerta, okay? So he was asking, what's the difference between an administrative warrant and a judicial warrant? Lots of difference. An administrative warrant does not give you the right to come into somebody's home, to have them open the door, or really even to be on their property, really. So you can ask them to leave. We generally tell people that you just don't even open the door. Unless they have a warrant to come into your home with a judicial warrant, which most of the time they do not have, then it's better to not even open your door. Is it happening in East Texas? I think so. I've seen a few videos circulating where people have everybody's got cameras now, and somebody had come onto their property and it looked like it was the sheriff's department, and they were knocking. They're like, "Is anybody there?" And nobody answered the door, and they went away. So just so y'all know, there is a difference between an administrative warrant and a judicial warrant. So a judicial warrant has power that an administrative warrant just doesn't have. Now, they are trying to change the rules like they are a lot of other things, but as of right now, that's the difference. Okay, vamos a cerrar. Y si tienen preguntas.
One more quick question for you. At the beginning of the year, this year, I know Sheriff Smith had like a town hall with the Hispanic community, and I think, if I don't recall, the information I saw was about the 2887G deal, and I think the conversation was that he was not going to be enforcing it, or it was already there, but they didn't have the task force, and I know there was a lot of back and forth during that town hall. Did that actually kind of work counterproductive and put more eyes on the sheriff because of that meeting?
Yeah, so we've kind of talked about this. So for the people that don't know, there was a meeting, and I think you were there, right? Or I don't know who was there, but were you there? Okay. So basically, the sheriff had a meeting at the beginning of the year. He said, at the time they had the 287 jail program only. And he said, we're not going to be doing this. We're not going to be arresting. Jose, what did he say exactly? Because I wasn't there.
He said the main thing was, we're doing 287G, which they were doing.
The jail model.
The jail model. But he said, we're not going to arrest anybody for no driver's license, for Class C traffic violations. That's what he told us. But the other day I had a talk with him by phone, and he said, we're arresting everybody for no driver's license.
But I want to give y'all some background.
That was the main thing that came out of that. But that made him in the spotlight. Then he gets the call from Abbott and says, you gotta change it, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. And that's when everything started.
But let me tell you why.
Abbott called him.
Because they put pressure on him.
Exactly.
There were some influencers who went after him online and said he was going to be doing all this stuff, and then
well, they're going to run somebody against him.
Right.
That's how you threaten the police.
And so then the governor came down, and all of a sudden we're signing the 287G task force, and that's how we ended up with the 287G task force. But if pressure can work that way, then we should do the same. We should push back, because why in East Texas do we need somebody from Austin or somebody from Washington, D.C. telling us on a local level what we should be doing? We know our community better. Our local leaders know our community better. And this whole pushback of it makes the community safer, no, it doesn't. Because if you call picking up women who have 5 U.S. citizen children who have no criminal record making our community safer, that's just not true. And if me and Dalila have been looking at the jail records of people that are coming in, and I take calls all the time from families that are detained. A majority of those people, like 90% of the calls that I've gotten, 95% of the calls that I've gotten in the last few weeks, they have no criminal record. No criminal record. So please don't let that lie spread that somehow we're helping the community, because it's just not true. We are criminalizing people, and it's even worse because we're holding them without bond. And so now you have people who've never been in jail, and we're holding them in jails, and it's really hard for them because they're actually not criminals.
You also have a chilling effect on people reporting crimes, right? Because if you're undocumented and you're a victim of a crime, are you going to call the police? Especially if you live outside the city limits? You don't want the sheriff's office to come to your house if there's a domestic violence incident or some theft on your property. I mean, it's making us less safe. And going back to the political pressure that Melina was talking about, ask yourself why a constable wants to sign a 287G contract. Do you think he wants to be a constable for the next election? It's because he's got his eyes on the bigger crimes. I mean, politicians work based on politics and money. Right? And that's what's driving this whole thing, is politics and money.
But politics is driven by who votes.
Absolutely.
Can we brush up on voter rights? Because my understanding was there was no last voter leaves that poll, correct? Or is it at 7 the cutoff line?
Elena, I think that's a
The,
legitimate
the
question.
polls close, you have to be in line by the time the voting booth is supposed to close, and they gotta let everybody in line vote, which is usually at 7. But, you know, the way we're doing voting now, it's so arcane. We don't have voting on the weekends. We don't have really 2 weeks of early voting. So I always tell everybody, just go vote the very first day of early voting so that you don't have to worry about it.
And please, before you leave, please make sure you sign up and maybe put your email address, and that way we can send out an email and start sharing information, you know, and putting out more calls to action. And, you know, if you guys are interested, we want to continue to do this. I know with the pastors, we've tried to do a meeting, you know, once every 2 months. We kind of called this one really quickly because things are happening so quickly. But I think we need to continue to do this and get together and see how we can continue to move our community forward.
Sí, yo tengo una
So if you need to
pregunta.
leave, please sign up.
Thank you very much.
Yes.